Right, everyone. In operations, there are six big areas that we need to revise and make sure you're confident in before your exams. The first one we're going to look at today is production process. Now, when we talk about process, a process is just a series of steps that the business has to go through to make it good. So when you're making a cup of tea, you can see there on the screen that there's a series of stages that we go through. You get the cup, you pour the water in, you get your milk, your sugar, and all the rest of it. And you don't do all of those things all at once. You go through one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and eventually the cup of tea is made. Now that's exactly the same way that we make all products. It's a process that are followed, which results in the finished goods being produced. Now in your exam, you need to know that there are three main ways of making products, three production processes, if you like, job, batch, and flow there. And for each one, you need to understand what the advantages and disadvantages of that method are so that you can recommend an appropriate production process based on the case study that they give you in the test. Okay, job production. Now, job production is where you make one unique product from start to finish. The customer gets complete choice here. So it's the wedding cake. They decide how many layers the cake is, what kind of materials go in, is it fruit, is it chocolate, the decoration. They have complete control over the designers of the products. And the products are made to a very, very high standard. Because of that, they're very expensive products. So we're going to sell these products, the battleship, the road, the railway, the wedding cake, the Lamborghini. We're going to sell them to a very, very high price. But we don't get that money back until we've sold the product. So up until that point, the business has got to put all of the costs up itself. Speaking of costs, the costs are very high. And the main reason for that is that the work has to be carried out by highly skilled individuals. You can't automate these things. You can't get robots to do it. Human beings with lots of skills are needed to make these products. So the customer gets lots of choice. The products are very high quality. They're built specifically to the individual's order. And organisation is quite simple because we're only making one at a time. But the labour costs are high, your production costs are high, and you don't get your money until you're finished. Right? That's the trade-off here, right? So the next one is batch production. This is where you make items of similar products. So the green paint, the red paint, the blue paint. The customer doesn't get total choice like you would do with job production, but they get some choice. You get a certain choice when it comes to types of sausage rolls. The vegan sausage roll, the smaller sausage roll, a large sausage roll, but they're all sausage rolls. But you can't exactly set out what kind of sausage roll you want. The business can give you two or three choices, say. Now, the advantage of batch production is that you can make products much more quickly because you can automate the products. Customers still get some choice, and you don't need quite as highly skilled workers to produce the goods because we're using more machinery in the production line. The danger you've got with batch production is that it's going to take you some time to switch the machines over. So having made the yellow paint, I've got to clean the vats down, clean the pipes down, and I'm going to now make the blue paint. So there's going to be time in between resetting and cleaning machines. And if you're going to make a batch for one customer and a batch for another customer, you need to carefully plan when you're going to do those things. It's because you don't want to have machines or people sitting idle while they're waiting for our next batch to be produced. At the same time, you don't want to be trying to do two batches together because you can't. So you might need to have lots of components in stock and just in a warehouse just in case, so that when the batch order comes through, you can make that up. But that takes up time and space and money, therefore, in your warehouse and in your factory. The final one is flow production. It's flowing. It's continuous production. It's mass production. These are names that it goes by. Now, the whole point here is that we're making identical items very, very, very quickly. Because we're making them quickly, human beings are not fast enough to produce those goods. We're going to replace human beings for the most part with automation robots. and manufacturing machinery. They can make identical products really, really quickly, and that keeps the running costs low because we don't need lots and lots of highly skilled workers. We can respond to changes in demand, so if a big order comes in, we can quickly make more of these goods because they're identical. But it's a take it or leave it deal with the customer. The customer doesn't get much choice. It's either they want that newspaper or they don't. One of the bigger disadvantages of flow production is that you need machinery to do it, and this is specially designed machines, and therefore it's really expensive to buy those machines to do the job. If you're a production worker and you're working on the production line, because the machines are doing most of the work, your job tends to be quite repetitive and boring, and therefore you might be demotivated by doing it. If a machine breaks down, yes, you need workers to be able to fix it, but it can also be really expensive when that happens too. And if the machine breaks, that stops the whole production line, and we can't make any more goods. So that's the big picture, right? And you need to know at least two arguments for and against each one. If you can do that, you'll be fine with an exam question. This is a really important table here, okay? So let's have a look at this. So job production, it's fairly inexpensive to bring in. You don't need to automate it. You've already got the workers, but you do need lots of them, and they need to be highly skilled. You make one at a time, so output's going to be low, and that means productivity is going to be low. But you sell a product, wedding cake, Lamborghini, that's a very, very high value at the end. But you do need to do lots of training for staff because those staff have to be very, very highly skilled, and therefore your labour costs are high. Batch production, by contrast, is quite expensive to set up because we can't start automating production now. Because of that, though, you don't need as many workers, and the kind of workers you need to have can be lower skilled. Output begins to rise now because those machines and the productivity of those machines is very high. But you do tend to make products which are lower value products. Your sausage rolls, your tins of paint, your curtains, your carpets and wallpapers. You're not talking about high-end products like job makes. Those workers do need some training, but it depends on how much you're going to automate. Therefore, unlike job production, which is high labour costs, batch production is good and medium. The final one, which is when we've got a factory that makes thousands, maybe more goods a day, some make millions a day, you need a process which is very, very fast. Well, this is flow production, isn't it? Machinery, automation, robots, which are programmed by machines that do the vast majority of the work. You do need some staff, mainly they're semi-skilled staff, but you do need some like programmer types and people who can fix machines if they break. Setting this up is very, very expensive, but it might be worth it because the level of output and productivity is extraordinarily high. But you tend to make products at the end of the day, tins of beans, tins of peas, packet of crisps, Cadbury's cream eggs, that are quite low value compared to the other ones. All right, and that's the big picture. So again, if you're confident with those things there's not a lot an exam could ask you that you won't be able to answer. Well done.